Today, I'm breaking down a total refinish and restoration of a Michael Taylor for Baker Furniture dresser circa 1960. This was a beast of a project. Probably one of the most difficult projects I've ever done because I made a nearly tragic mistake and sanded through one of the drawer's veneer. And I paid the price with days of time and effort. But I also learned from my experience, picked up a little bit of wisdom, and eventually got it done right. Let's get to it. Michael Taylor, the designer for this dresser for Baker Furniture, was a legend. He's the person credited for inventing the California aesthetic. What that means exactly, I'm still not sure, but it sounds significant. When I was commissioned to refinish this dresser, my eyes immediately darted to the wood grain. Here, look at that walnut popping through. Beneath its original yellow lacquered finish, there was great potential. Before getting too far into any project, I prioritized the repairs early. This piece had several sections of damaged veneer. Once I'd cleared out the area, I sketched out the area with pencil, then traced it onto a piece of walnut veneer. For backing, I grabbed a spare piece of veneer from an older project, stripped the veneer to steal the backing, then I glued the new veneer to the old backing to ensure the veneer was level, again cutting it clean with a razor blade. Painter's tape is a great replacement for clamps, especially for delicate veneer repairs. Here, I'm filling in the spaces with wood putty, then sanding the area smooth. I recolored the veneer with a combination of Danish oil and stain until it was close enough to the piece's color. The toned lacquer will blend it all together here soon in a bit. It was on to stripping the piece. To mentally prepare myself for the grind ahead, I like to lay out my arsenal of supplies at the ready. I first attempted to strip the old finish. Was it stained lacquer? Paint? With QCS strip well. You can see I'm having a moderate degree of success, peeling back layers with my carbide pole scraper. When I scrape furniture, I go through all the phases of acceptance, denial, negotiation, anger, all of it. Eventually though, I try to relinquish progress and trust that with enough good effort, the job will get done. And honestly, it's a really rewarding process once I accept the process. I got the top stripped with QCS strip weld, but it took 4 rounds of stripping. So I chose to approach the finish like paint removal, and I switched to Clean Strip's premium stripper, which sped up things greatly. The finish started peeling down to the walnut after one pass. Every piece requires its own unique technique and its own respect. For this piece, you can see all the intricate contours. It took me a day or so to learn how to hold the scraper at the right angle to remove the finish without damaging the wood. Efficiency takes time and is taught by each piece. Oddly, in furniture refinishing, I don't always feel like I'm in woodworking. Sometimes I feel more like a car painter or a graffiti artist. But here, the smell of wood was everywhere in the shop, and I loved it. The mouse sander helped remove finish from the corners, and the sanding blocks helped me grind through most of the finish on top. But because of the walnut's open grain, some of the old finish remained in the grain despite my best effort. But finish removal was going well and looking good until I sanded through a drawer's veneer. After hitting my knees and asking the furniture gods, how could I be so careless? I called the client, apologized, discounted my work, and got busy replacing the veneer. First, I had to cut an inlet for the drawer pull, beginning with a sketch of its carving. Then with careful and light use of a razor blade, I carved the pull's outline. All those kindergarten arts and crafts activities, which I hated because it wasn't recess, were valuable, it turns out. Next, I had to figure out how to match this walnut veneer to the piece's lighter and older walnut. The veneer was multiple shades darker than the piece, so I bleached the veneer before mounting it onto the drawer. Here I'm building battens, which will apply even pressure on the veneer so it adheres solidly to the drawer when it's clamped. The small piece of veneer taped in the middle ensures that the pressure applies evenly downward, not just at the outside of the batten where the clamps apply pressure. You'll see what I mean in a second. This is a non-adhesive layer to keep the glue from sticking to things it shouldn't, made with spare veneer and parchment paper. I roll glue just like I roll paint. It's that simple. Gotta cover the whole surface though, all the way to the edges. If not, you risk the veneer chipping off easily in the future. Before attaching the whole veneer contraption, I did a dry run, lining up the veneer, then the parchment paper, then the wood panel, and concluding with the clamped down battens. I drew a diagram, took many measurements, and double checked myself. I like flying by the seat of my pants just as much as the next guy, but this kind of woodworking requires diligent attention to detail. I didn't want to create any more work for myself than I already had, and 24 hours later, the glue had locked the veneer down, and I planed off the exposed veneer from the edges with a razor blade. Very carefully. Some call it liming, others call it cerusing. Whatever you call it, I'm doing it here. To the veneer to insert white paint deep into the wood grain so that it matches the rest of the piece once it's stained and toned. Here I'm using American walnut stain to bring the color up closer to the color of the drawers, and it is getting closer. 2 days later, I applied toner, and as you can see, the color came out too yellow, so I removed the layer with acetone. I'd use sealer below the toner for this very purpose, and the second toning started to look much closer. I chose Danish oil, natural color, because I wanted to highlight the walnut without obscuring the wood grain with stain. I thought about using toned lacquer only, but I figured the piece would have more depth and a richer color with the Danish oil beneath the toner. 3 days later, the Danish oil had cured, so I progressed into sealing the piece. Sealing helps for 2 reasons. 1, if you mess up, sealer allows you to wipe off the toner with acetone without damaging anything below the sealer. 2, sealer expands with time, allowing a buffer between wood and lacquer, which prevents the lacquer from cracking as the wood inevitably shrinks and expands. Toner provides a richness that stain can't provide. Here's Mohawk's toner medium brown walnut, applying a nice, even shade of color on top of the stain. Lastly, I applied 6 or so passes of pre-catalyzed lacquer in satin across the entire piece. Then I wiped it down with steel wool. And that was a rewarding project. The drawers veneer was close, but not quite an exact match, but I believed it was close enough in the end. And ultimately, I was grateful for the customer's patience with my mistake. If you enjoyed today's restoration video, a like and a subscribe help my channel immensely, as I'm sure you've heard many other people talk about on YouTube before. Also, if you would like any of the supplies or equipment that you saw in today's video, you can tap the link in the description and it'll take you to my website where I have my entire workshop list of supplies for you ready. Thanks for watching.